are back with Mr. Grannon in Lisboa, Portugal. We are in a very cool studio in a very cool part of town. This is actually the party district. I think did you know that?
Oh, the Uber driver told me
Yeah,
that.
Bairro Alto party district. Yeah, there's actually a road that has bras hanging across the road. I'll take you there. I'll show you. It's true. So Richard, I told you they existed. Do they exist?
They exist.
Braziers.
Many bras.
Many bras.
Over the shoulder belter holders.
Something you've always wanted to see.
Yes.
Old people's bras hanging.
Oh my God, my favorite.
All right. What we're going to talk about is something I brought up with you the other day. When people leave cults, they either wake up and they understand, oh, the person had a pathology. There were all these structures of control. There were all these things that went on. But a lot of people leave and they don't really do the deprogramming work. And this is a isomorphic metaphor with narcissistic abuse. And so they leave with the cult leader still installed internally, which I'd love you to talk about. The Introjects, you call them? Yeah. And so what they do is I see them start making excuses for the leader. Like, I'll try that one more time. I see them. I see them start to make excuses for the cult leader, like, well, maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe they just, something went wrong. They don't want to look at the possibility that the leader might be a psychopath. And they leave with the feeling like they did something wrong. And it's the one thing that when I talk to people, I really struggle with, because I can't just give them all the information about what really happened, because they go into a state of denial and there's some kind of protection that goes on. But I wanted to talk about that a bit with you, because I struggle when I'm trying to help people who have left, because I don't necessarily have the time to, go through months and months of work on this. But they are trying to make what happened good and still making themselves bad. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that happens in relationships too, I think.
With narcissistic abuse, it's very, very common. It's what keeps people inside of the narcissistically abusive relationship. If we had a cult psychologist here, we'd probably find that people they'd lost who went back to the cult for another round, another 6 months or another 6 years or however long, it was because the superego injunctions, the narcissistic cult leader Introject, conquered them and convinced them that leaving was bad, that they're bad for leaving, that the real world is bad and full of bad, evil people, and that the only truth, the only salvation is back in the cult. That's why I called the book A Cult of One. I mean, it is a cult, and it engages in this kind of splitting.
Just explain splitting to the audience real quick.
Yeah, there's quite a few terms here that are a little bit...
Introject,
superego, injunction, splitting. Splitting is what used to be called an infantile defense. The more PC way of describing it is a primitive defense. It was first defined by Freud. It means you see a person, an institution, a thing as either altogether good, so they can do no evil, or altogether bad, they can do no good, and you've split them off. It's typically a response against nuance that the person engages in to make their lives easier, and they're usually traumatized. So traumatized people don't think, oh, well, this happened because it's all a system within a system and various shades of gray. They go, bad thing, evil, kill it, good thing, wonderful salvation. That's the infantile delusional side of it. It's childlike in its reasoning. So do superego injunctions?
Briefly. I mean, I call it the inner critic, but I think you're using the correct term.
Inner critic is because there's also outer critics, and it's not always critical. But so, real brief, the superego injunction. It's poor translation from German. So, in Freud said there was an id, an ich, which is me, ich, and an über-ich, which is the over self. And for some reason, the translator wanted to use Latin, so he said ego, superego, which is so confusing. Because if I hear superego, I'm like, oh, super narcissistic. It's über-ich, the over-self. What is the over-self? When we were children, our parents, the adults in the community, watched over us from on high. And then when you went and stuck your finger in the plug, they said, don't do that. Don't do, it's a commandment from on high, because I come up to their knees when I'm an infant. Don't do that. Ah, that's good. You're a good boy. Who's that a drawing of? Is that your mummy and daddy? Good boy. So I know that this is good. When I do the drawing of my mummy and daddy and show it, everybody's very happy. The adults are all happy and smiling. I go, oh, this must be good. When I go to put my fingers in the plug, the adults get upset and they don't like that. So I know that must be bad. It's totally natural. So we develop a superego. The Uber Ich is kind of like a conscience. It's our map of right and wrong in the world.
Okay. But it feels like it's outside of us.
It will feel, it largely you'll kind of, a lot of it is from outside of you, but you experience it as internal.
Got it.
You experience internal. And most people are not aware of their superego injunctions. An injunction is a law delivered from on high. It's a legal term. It's a commandment. Thou shalt not. It's from on high. You will not. Good, bad. Splitting, again. An introject is when we internalize a person or an institution or a thing or a belief from the external world and make it our own. It's neither good nor bad. So inside of a cult, when I'm immersed in a cult, I'm sleeping there, I'm eating there, I'm speaking to cult members. Occasionally I get to see the wonder that is the cult leader. Once he smiled at me, once he patted me on the head. It was the most amazing experience I've ever felt. I felt the presence of God, blah, 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 blah. You've seen this. You've been in more than one.
Oh,
You know how it goes. I'm craving for the cult leader to see me and for validation from the people inside the cult. And I'm invested in making this real because the world has disappointed me. When I'm with the narcissist, largely speaking, the world has disappointed me. I'm vulnerable and I need to make this real. So it's a defense against reality that I am very ready to engage in. Part of me knows that all you guys are kind of a little messed up and kind of lying. Part of me knows the cult is not really going to go anywhere. A part of me that I deeply suppress in order to get the payoff of being in the cult knows the cult leader is a narcissistic egomaniac, but I repress that and I live through suppression and I join in your mass delusion because it's better than what was out there. We're going to go back. You want to go back to being a waitress in a horrible fucking cafe? You want to go back to being a nobody? Or do you want to join us with the Galactic Federation and save humanity? What's wrong with you? Bum, bum, bum. You've seen this. It plays out exactly the same way in a narcissistic relationship.
Hey, quick interlude. If you're liking these conversations and want to help me keep expressing what is on my mind, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even follow the podcast wherever you listen. And if you want to go a step further in supporting the show and getting access to some behind-the-scenes rants, you can join me over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Mark Vicente. It really does make a difference. All right, back to the episode. So picking up of that, like I talk to people that they think they're having their own thoughts, but it's almost like they're interacting with the ideology, the philosophy of the cult leader or the cult leader's voice. I mean, I remember when I first left NXIVM and I started basically saying bad things about the leader, I was afraid. And I was like, this makes no sense. And I realized I've been so indoctrinated for so long that I have to speak with honor about him, that the act of speaking truth, like the guy's an asshole, felt dishonorable. And so I remember that. And I see with people, it's like this voice in their mind. It's like these boundaries of places they can't go. And I think some of them say, oh, that sounds like my cult leader. I think it's his voice still. And some of them just go like, well, I've been thinking about this and I've been thinking about that. And they're utterly confused and they can't see what's going on. And they feel trapped. And that I don't know quite how to have those conversations.
It's very, very tricky because cults and narcissistically abusive relationships, they infantilize the target. So you're probably, at that moment, you're not coming from your adult ego state. You're coming from a child ego state. He might hear me.
Yes.
Remember, thou shalt honor thy father and mother. You're speaking evil of your father. Oh, that's interesting. What do you think is going to happen to you now? Bitch. And that's the voice in your head. It's like, oh, so, Mark. Because I know, because you've told me, you went through these like interrogations, your confessions. So this is you playing, I don't know,
victim or whatever.
Whatever. I remember from the Landmark Forum, I was dating an Australian girl, and she would be like, they said that they called them suits or something. They'd be like, oh, you're in your strong suit. Everybody has their own terminology. You're being, what is it, resistant, defiant, disruptive?
Yeah, defiant.
Defiant.
Yep.
So Mark, the old defiance, you never conquered it, did you? Here we are again. What is this game? Why do you do this? And then it's the interrogation into Mark's morality, his childhood, the pseudo-psychotherapy that Ranieri was doing with you. The old resistance, Mark. Oh, you're never going to get over this, are you? Look, for the 1000th time, Ranieri only, or name of cult leader, only wants what's best for you. It's you. It's you. What is, do you want to suffer? Why are you like this? And I've never been in a cult, but I can only replicate that because I've been in a cult of one. I've been in narcissistic abusive relationships. How many times do I have to tell you? And you're going to keep bringing this up. Why do you want to be in pain? Why? It's just crazy to me. You're so smart. I've never seen such an intelligent man so committed to his own self-destruction. This is right, I guess, or it's similar. That's what I would
More subtle, but
more subtle,
yeah.
more subtle. Okay,
Yeah.
so yes, because it's a fairly.
Sounds like you were being screamed at the time.
I was. Bottles were being thrown at me. Why are you like this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
I'm a horrible human
I'm
being.
just a piece of shit. Okay, so more subtle because of a fairly high IQ cult, so I would imply it.
Yeah,
I would
no,
agree.
exactly, exactly.
Or a look or a raised eyebrow,
Exactly.
like, so the problem's Ranieri. Yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm thinking, you're
Yeah.
full of shit, kind of. The meta-communication is holding you in place.
Exactly. And so, yes, so that happens over time. And then I was thinking about, when people, this is very common actually, when people come out of cults, they've been, it's been drilled into them that victim consciousness is a problem. Now, why has it been drilled into them? Because the cult leader has made sure to push that message so that if they ever feel like they're being abused, it's because they have victim consciousness. Because they're actually not being abused if they could only realize it, but they're so messed up, they think that everything is abuse. So when they leave, they believe they haven't been abused. And then in order for them to embrace—
They believe they can't be abused.
Haven't been and can't be.
Yep.
Yeah. So they come out and then they have fellow whistleblowers saying, they did bad shit to us. Well, I don't want to be a victim, like I want to own my own blah, 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 which is basically just spouting out the language.
It's pure narcissistic defense, by the way.
Right.
It's a total narcissistic
Which has been
defense,
installed.
Which is installed.
Installed in the person. So
It's a mirroring of the narcissism of the cult itself, the people within the cult and the cult leader.
Yes.
It's a pathology.
Yes, exactly. Yes, you're completely right. And so what happens is they can't embrace something bad was done to me.
So in terms of solutions to this, I always start with, and I will work with the clients or not work with them based on this. You need to be humble. You fucked up.
Yes.
You made a mistake.
Yeah.
Can you go there? And I've had people have very strong emotional reactions to that. I'm not demeaning myself. I didn't say demean myself. I said be humble. Because our initial response in the infantile state that we've been placed in, plus we're mirroring the pathology of the cult and the cult leader, is no, you were a victim. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
I see what you're saying. There's kind of a pride there.
It's technically, it's not narcissistic personality disorder. It's not. So narcissistic personality disorder and narcissism are two different things. It's technically a narcissistic defense. I am in denial. I'm failing the reality test. I'm not looking at the reality of my situation. Look, I'm a big, strong man. You think like some small, skinny girl is going to psychologically dominate me? No, that's not possible, mate. I can fight 10 bastards. There's no way I would let that happen. Well, guess what? Because of reasons, you did. But we can't even, there's no point in me saying, listen, because of your childhood trauma.
Yeah.
We must start with, no, I think I was tricked. Fuck. I think I was tricked.
That's interesting.
We start from humility.
Because you and I have spoken of this before. I just didn't think that was an interesting door in. But okay, so there's that one thing. Maybe this is part of it. It feels to me like when I talk to people and then they do have the recognition, like if I say to them, do you think if somebody does this to you, to any, not you, if somebody does this to somebody else, what do you think?
Second person it.
Second person, they go, well, that's bad. And then eventually I bring it back to them and they realize like that is what was done. And then they have a moment where they go, holy shit. And then they start to feel the fact that somebody abused them, you know, in X, Y, and Z way. But I feel there's also some defense, and maybe this is defense against reality you're talking about, that their whole world will change. Their whole view will change when they recognize, no, that person did a terrible thing to me and they meant it.
So number one, we start with humility. Number two, we start restructuring our morality. So what you're doing is you're demanding a moral judgment.
Yeah.
Was it bad? Bad's a bit strong. I mean, I think you've got to understand in the context of the program, what we're trying to do is break down ego boundaries. So of course, was it bad? Yeah, it's bad. Thank you. Thank you. So you are the victim of something, and the thing that you're a victim of is a bad thing. I cannot work with anybody who's going to be in denial. There's no point. With the best will in the world, we can have 10 coaching sessions and it will be like water off a duck's back. They might learn something and feel a bit better, but they're not going to heal. Humility, morality. That's where we have to start.
So here's another sort of move that gets done with me sometimes. They say, okay, so maybe some bad things happened, but I think that victim consciousness is very unhealthy, and I see a lot of people leveraging victimization that doesn't exist to get ahead, which is true. So they're holding on to that thing as well, which they've also been taught in the cult. And just so happens, I agree with that, cult or not, that people using victimization and staying there is not great.
That's easy.
But I think you first have to acknowledge that you were victimized before you can arrive at the recognition, oh, that can be abused as well.
I think at that point, if I was in coaching, and I haven't done coaching for 8 years with somebody, but at that point, I'd start reframing and I'd go, why don't me and you have a philosophical conversation? Can it be true that some people leverage their false victimization to get what they want, and that some people are actually victims in the world as well? And any sane, honest person is going to go, yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, so in some sense, this doesn't really have anything to do with this.
Off the table? Yeah.
Are you the victim of something? Did you consent to this, whatever the details are that you would be privy to? This is what was done to you. Did you, another reframe I use, I'll say, if I walked into your living room the night before you began the narcissistic relationship with my whiteboard that I love so much, you now got a Scouse fella with a whiteboard in your living room going, listen, mate, you're going to date a bird tomorrow. You're going to go on a date with a fella tomorrow. This is what's going to happen. Bang, 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 bang. 20 minutes. Go if you want to. But they're going to say one thing, but this is what they're really doing. If you choose to go, then that's on you. Did anybody do that? No. So you didn't know then?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know. That sucks, doesn't it? Shit. What would you have done if somebody had told you? I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have this, I wouldn't have that. So then there's this, we're back to humility again.
Right, because that actually induces humility. Like you didn't have this information.
No.
I didn't. Therefore.
So narcissists believe in like omniscience and omnipresence and they all knowing. No sane human who sat in front of you, who's sane but damaged, is going to think, oh, I believe I'm infinite, eternal, and omniscient. No. But the coordinates they're operating from do. The introject, the superego injunction, is saying, I know everything. You're a victim. I'm not a fucking victim. You didn't know. I knew. So then you go, did you know? Bum, bum, bum. Yes or no? There are a lot.
That breaks it apart.
It breaks it a little bit. It breaks it a little bit. So there's a lot.
And then they go into a crisis, of course, which is not a bad crisis. It's a necessary crisis.
We've got to go there. Because without that crisis, the grieving that comes, they're going to stay in that cycle of justification. And I've watched people do that for years. Some people do that. The rest of that, that's a terrible tragedy. Post-traumatic embitterment syndrome, they just stay there for years. And I'm like, you should be angry about what happened. So the crisis brings grief. And then after the grief and the crying, I can't believe this happened to me, blah, blah, then there's anger.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful. You're sad. You're angry. Now we can look at moving on. And this will
Yes.
take months. But without that, you're just going to be like, no, it wasn't that bad.
Yes. It's such an interesting exact metaphor for leaving an abusive relationship as well, when they've been so entrained to think that they were the problem.
Yes.
Because there are people that leave these relationships, leave these cults, leave these churches that feel like they've failed.
Well, they did. And I'd do this in coaching.
Yeah.
I'd do this. No, you did. You did, didn't you? You failed them, didn't you? You were supposed to make it okay. Because even if they know it or not, so inside of it, I don't know if this will tally with a cult or not. Inside of a narcissistically abusive relationship, I'm the cult leader, you're my follower. What we're asking, this is transactional analysis. What we're asking each other unconsciously is to play a game.
Okay.
And the game is you save me. You're parent, I'm child. Save me. You're leaving? You've abandoned your child? See, the guilt is like, you don't know that because that's creepy. Like you don't.
That is creepy, yeah.
You don't see Keith Raniere as your child.
But he felt like that sometimes.
And you were to be his mother, not even his father. So it doesn't matter what gender you are, what sexuality you are.
He seemed helpless at times.
He's just a baby. Did he ever show you pictures of himself as a kid?
Never.
That wasn't one of his manipulation
tactics. I don't think he had them. Oh, that's not true. I have this one. There's one that he showed me. There's one. He was so fucking cute.
That's how you should see him. That's all he is, Mark. Why would you? We were so close. How could you? That's the superego. I went through that. What drew me back? I got sex addiction therapy twice after 2 relationships because my conscious mind was telling me I was addicted to the sex, and both my therapists were like, you don't have sex addiction. We went through the procedure, and it's just overwhelming guilt. I would leave, and then I would see my ex-girlfriend in 2 cases as being totally impotent and incompetent in the world, and just lying in the slow motion rain with sad music on the sidewalk,
helpless. And
then a good therapist would come along and go, that's kind of a narcissistic fantasy that you're all powerful and she's completely helpless. Does that? If I told you that that's how I see this woman or that's how I see this man, how would you feel about that? I'd be like, ugh, that's weird. It's kind of creepy.
Yes.
Because I can't save anybody, and I'm not your mum. I'm not your dad. I'm just a dude. It's the coercion that's occurring.
That's interesting because I think about women that their husband, their partner is very abusive and very violent, and they still see them as just somebody that needs help.
I think women are more susceptible to this type of manipulation than men.
Because of the caretaking.
Because of the caretaking and the very, very, very strong mothering instinct. And I have a slight suspicion women may be more susceptible to guilting than men.
Susceptible to guilting?
Yeah, I think this is pure conjecture, evolutionary psychology that I'm pulling out of my bottom. If a mother doesn't listen to the cries of her children, the children could die. So I'm the god of evolution. I'm God Charles Darwin. I'm going to keep the women in the gene pool who can be guilt tripped into feeding their kids.
Oh.
At all times, no matter how sick
then
she is.
Survival will be assured.
And survivability goes up. In men, it's important, but quite honestly, you're replaceable.
It's better you go fight the things outside.
Honestly, if you got to die, kid.
As long as your seed's gone,
we just don't need men as much as women. And that's not a novel thought. Like every evolutionary biologist and psychologist will tell you that men just matter less.
Yeah.
Systemically in terms of the future of the species.
Do you think that's why we sometimes feel disposable?
I think there's things that there's a weird clash between culture, psychology, physiology, genetics, and biology that's creating a lot of tension right now. But part of it is because we're trying to apply a non-realistic narcissistic fantasy to biological truth. But yeah, like we feel disposable because we are disposable. I don't know if we have. Let's go into this a little bit. So the biological reality of men is they matter less than women. You don't have to be a dick about it. You can still have a sense of humor and honor men. Women are physically weaker than men. There are things that men can do that women can't. You don't have to be a fucking dick about it. Yeah, I could beat you up. Doesn't mean I should.
Yeah, yeah.
We can. In my utopia, we would put all of the biology and all of the truth and all of the darkness, because it's not that dark. Like humans are evil, but they're not that evil. Put it on the table. It's not that big of a deal. It's a big deal when you say it's not there.
Yeah.
Then it's a problem.
Yeah.
Certain times of the month, certain women want alpha males, an alpha male or alpha males plural. That's not very polite. That's not very nice. A married woman at certain times of the month might have a sudden overwhelming desire for chiseled muscular men, a chiseled muscular male or multiple. Are women allowed to want that? It doesn't matter. They do.
Mm.
So there are things that men want that aren't very polite. There are things that women want that aren't very polite. It's okay if you're not a dick about it and if you don't suppress it. So yeah, no, I think it's one of those things. Yes, men are disposable, but let's honor men for being men and their contribution. Let's honor women for their contribution.
Yeah.
Have a sense of humor and a sense of curiosity.
Man, that is so interesting. I'm still so interested in this, because we talked in another episode about the parasitized empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just keep thinking about like when you leave a cult, a parasite was installed in the cult.
Yes.
You leave the cult and the parasite is still active.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of work. And I like what you're saying. Yes, humility, which is you and I have discussed before. I just said, yeah, I fucked up. The recognition that, yes, these things happened. The recognition you don't have to stay in that. You don't have to, accentuate a sense of victimhood forever.
Mm-hmm.
But there is still, I did this amazing podcast episode, which is coming actually, as of this recording, it's coming out like in an hour, with somebody that I was in the cult with. And they were with him for 40 years. They were with Keith Raniere.
As a partner? Or?
As a partner. She was with Keith Raniere from the age of 18.
Oh, my God.
And she went all the way up until 2018 when we were just blowing everything apart. And it's an amazing podcast episode, by the way.
Name dropper.
What was it? What did I call it?
No, what's her name?
Oh, her name is Karen Anschreiner.
Okay.
So she met him when she was 18. He parasitized her for 40 years. She was in his clutches. And she talked about in this podcast about how that voice is still in there. And it was really interesting because I even said, like, I never asked her, well, how were you susceptible? She said, oh, my mother basically thought I was valueless. And I was like, oh, now I get it. Which is weird, by the way, just to go back. I knew less about her than she knew about me because Raniere never wanted us to know anything about the woman in his life. So they were just basically shut off. Like I didn't know anything about her. She knew a lot about me because the EM process I told you? She did that with me. She did it actually very well with good intent. Very, very helpful. But I knew nothing about her. So in the years after the cult broke apart, I've now learned more about her life, which is fascinating. I'm actually going to link that episode below as well.
It's probably so keen for you to not know anything about them because it could make them salvageable.
Well, there was that. And then she said to me, the reason you were never allowed in any of our homes is because if you went in and you sat and hung out, you would start to understand what was going on. And he never wanted you in the homes.
He didn't want you to see the reality.
I was never allowed in the women's homes. Not like thou shalt not, just like we're not going to meet there.
Okay.
We're going to go meet here. We're going to meet there. But anyway, the point being that she walks around now after 40 years under his spell, and now she's been out for, let's say, 7 years. And she said it's still very strong. It's like the parasite is still in there. She doesn't talk about it in those terms.
7 years.
She's been out 7 years. Awake 7 years, I should say.
Send her my WhatsApp.
Yeah.
The process of, I've just done a course on it. Literally, I was working on it yesterday and this morning. It's not easy to get it out, but it's not impossible if we turn and face it. You go, some of these impulses, these drives, these instincts, these thoughts, these are not mine, they're theirs. So I think I would be a bit stronger on this now. The experience of being in a cult and the experience of being in a narcissistic relationship are so similar that after this conversation, I would say there is such a thing as a cult narcissistic fantasy, that if it's not deconstructed after the relationship, it's just going to carry on. There's no reason for you to assume you're going to heal.
Yeah, I agree.
With time and distance.
And by the way, Richard Grannon and I have done a course about some of these things, cults and narcissists.
Yes.
I'm going to link it below. You guys should check that out as well. Oh, man, so much to think about. I'm going to also send you the episode with my friend Karen.
Very cool.
Fascinating.
You should link it here
for
these people.
Where am I going to link it? Somewhere up here.
Yeah.
Is it up here? It's up here on YouTube.
Usually in the space in between us.
Space in between us. All right, my man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
To my audience, as always, stay curious.